Welcome you to the Zebulon Board of Commissioners Works Session, April 17, 2025. First, we will need an approval of the agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the agenda.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Sure.
Recent developments involving a serious personnel matter have led me to a point where I can no longer continue in this role. I was placed in a position where I was expected to take action that I believe is unethical and inappropriate. According to NC General Statutes, the town manager is responsible for managing staff and administering all personnel actions. I've always believed that how we treat people, especially those who serve the public alongside us, says everything about our leadership. I will not compromise those beliefs, even at the cost of stepping away. Therefore, I am resigning from my position of town manager effective immediately. I want to thank the dedicated staff, the residents, and those members of the board that have supported me throughout my time here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, old business. Parks and Rec. Gil Street Park update.
Thank you. I wanted to provide a quick update on the status of Gil Street Park. As you recall, Gil Street Park is a former landfill that was pre-1960s. In the 1960s, it was redeveloped to serve as a park to the Gil Street community, and there was the neighborhood around it. In fall 2023, public engagement regarding playground improvements and board discussion about adding bathrooms at Gil Street Park occurred. In April of 2024, pre-construction soil testing identified elevated lead levels. So we were able to confirm that there was contamination of lead levels. In August of 2024, the board moved to accept DEQ's offer to join the pre-regulatory landfill program and have them conduct additional soil testing and assessments. DEQ has continued to work through that process. They hired Hart Hickman to do additional investigation of the contaminations on that site and to work with the different agencies within the state, and to also put together a plan that works with the community in order to address the contamination at Gil Street Park. And if you recall, we're not alone in this. It was repurposing landfills for the purpose of a park was very common. It is very common. There are a lot of communities that are navigating the same thing, and so we are continuing to work with Hart Hickman and DEQ. They've done some initial testing. They submitted another report to DEQ last week, and they are working to secure access to some of the neighboring properties so that they can also do some testing around the park itself, so on some of the private properties there as well. I wanted to talk to you about an opportunity to create a capital project fund. You currently have $785,850 available in the FY 2025 budget. There's $500,000 for bathrooms, $850,000 for playground replacement, as well as $30,000 for community planning. We are not asking for any new funds at this time. We are recommending that you create a capital fund, which will recognize the project, that it will occur over multiple years. So we won't be able to complete this project by the end of this fiscal year. Because of the issues of contamination, it will take a while for us to work with DEQ to get that done. So it will create a fund so that you don't lose the funds back to general fund and have to reallocate it to Gil Street Park every fiscal year. And it also lets the community know that you're dedicated to the developments at this park. And it also removes the need for us to have to come back to you and say, hey, can you refund this each year? So you've got 2 ordinance before you today. I'll talk about those in just a second, but I also wanted to just present this to you. It's just an opportunity. I'm not necessarily recommending that you immediately do this, but I just wanted to share that as we work through how to navigate the contamination at Gil Street Park and how to develop a park that will make our community proud, there are opportunities where you could consider a relocation. I'm not necessarily saying this is the exact site that you could consider, but this is property that you currently own, and it will neighbor Zebulon Middle School as well as East Wake Academy. So there could be potential partnership opportunities down the line, but it would give you opportunity for a larger parcel to work within, as well as to consider adding additional amenities that you would find at a neighborhood park. So it's just something that we could talk about. It's not necessarily something I'm asking you to make a decision on tonight. I would love to talk with each of you a little bit more about it, set up a time where we could discuss what that could look like. But I just wanted to share, you do have opportunities to consider, that you don't have to be confined to this parcel. But I do hope that at some point we can continue to work towards building that park in a way that really reflects what the community is looking for and how they want to recreate. And so the next big step, if we continue to stick with the Gil Street parcel as it stands, is really just to continue to work with DEQ to understand the level of contamination there and hear from them on their recommendation on the best process. Yes.
Do you have, pardon me, I gave a talk to the 4th graders at East Wake Academy, and I just have had a frog in my throat ever since then.
Yeah, speak into the mic.
So the thought is that there's an additional parcel, and we might use that parcel as opposed to the one that Gil Street is currently on, or that we would kind of develop it and use both of those parcels.
I think you have the option of either or.
Okay.
So this is land you currently own
Right.
in that general vicinity, gives you a good amount of more acreage. I am not a landscape architect or an engineer, so we would need to evaluate if the parcel is going to be able to accomplish the things the community is looking for. But I think the way it partners the middle school property and East Wake Academy, there's some really cool opportunity there that I personally believe that we owe it to ourselves to look into it. Doesn't mean that you're going to walk away from Gil Street Park as it stands. You just might have some more flexibility, and you might be able to move a little bit faster with this other parcel.
Is that what the $30,000 in the capital project fund is for?
That's
for the community engagement to decide what we want to do?
Yeah, so we funded the community engagement because we really need to understand what the community wants. There's never been a site-specific plan to Gil Street Park. And so we really need to take an opportunity to work, and we need to be intentional in that work, and knowing that there's going to be some additional environmental assessments that we may need to do. We did expect it to cost a little bit more. So in this case, I think that would be a great step, is to just have conversations with the community, see what they're really looking for out of a park, serving their neighborhood. And then you can, while you're in that process, you can include just evaluation of sites in the area. This may be one, there may be others, in order to accomplish better meeting the needs.
When do we anticipate having the full report from the DEQ back?
I have not gotten a specific timeline from DEQ. they've had a lot of trouble securing access to some of the neighboring properties, and so that's extended the timeline from what they originally had intended to do. So we can ask them again if they've got an updated timeline.
That would be awesome.
But I would expect you're probably looking at another year as they navigate
Okay.
their all the state agencies that have to be involved in the assessment and the best approach to addressing the contamination.
Okay, and so the access to the other sites is just so they can do soil sampling from the neighboring adjacent
To
properties?
see if contamination spread.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you so much.
What was the last thing you asked?
The last question were they doing soil samples on the other properties, and that's why they needed the access?
Okay, thank you.
So there's two ordinance before you, Ordinance 30 and Ordinance 31. Ordinance 30 is establishing the capital fund, so that is that fund that is dedicated, that will not close out the end of the fiscal year, it will keep going. Ordinance 31 is what actually puts takes the funds out of my existing Parks and Rec budget, and it moves them to that CIP fund.
Do you want two separate motions?
One second before you make a motion, let me ask a question, please. So before we move these funds, the citizens last year in the budget was under the assumption that we put those funds there for a bathroom. Correct. Yes, sir, no problem. Last year when we put the funds in the budget, they were under the assumption that these $500,000 was to go into a bathroom. Now we're to take these funds and move them elsewhere. We have yet to engage the citizens and ask them what they want to do with the funds. Allow me to finish. And so how are we to sell this to the citizens and say, okay, no, we're going to take these funds, put them elsewhere. We've decided upon ourselves, but you told us what you want to do with their tax dollars. So what are we to do? What am I to say as a commissioner? When I go back to this community, what am I to say to them?
So we're not taking anything away from them. We're actually, we're solidifying even further. The only action you've taken right now is to put it in the fiscal year 2025 budget. What I'm asking for tonight is that you put it into a fund so that it does not go away, go back to the general fund, and it's not allocated to this project anymore. So if we don't do this, then you have to reallocate money. Then it's not going to stay within the budget. So you have to, either way, you're going to have to take another action. But what this does is put these funds somewhere where you're basically telling your citizens, we are so committed to this that we are willing to put it into a fund to guarantee that it's going to stay there, and it's not going to automatically at the end of the fiscal year go back to general fund. We don't have to take another action. It will be there unless this board takes action to close out the capital fund project and return the funds back to general fund.
So this is not removing anything from bathrooms or anything like that.
Absolutely
It's
not.
just saying that we are dedicating those funds to Gil Street Park, and we're going to move forward with this money going towards Gil Street Park, and we won't have to come back and talk about it every single year until everything gets taken care of, because it's already going to be in a fund.
So realistically, we're looking at potential, you're a subject matter expert, what time frame are we looking at to have these folks a bathroom? This is one of the first initiatives I took since I came on board 3.5 years ago. So now I'm asking them for more time. What am I to tell them? What realistically, in your subject, as the person that's recommending this, what kind of time frame am I to tell them that they possibly could use the bathroom at a park?
I would say it is time consuming to deal with contamination of lead in your park. If you want to move as fast as possible to provide that service to your citizens, then my recommendation is that you look at alternative opportunities, and that you could probably build a new park faster than you're going to be able to navigate your contamination and build those restrooms. And that's just a reality. It can be time consuming to deal with that contamination and build. I can't make a guarantee that I could do it in 2 years. right now, because I don't know the extent of the contamination yet because the report's not done. I don't know what the recommendation of DEQ is going to be in order to address. I don't know what the costs are going to be. I don't know if it's something that the town is going to want to do something different than what DEQ is willing to pay. And so my recommendation is, if your goal is to move as quick as possible to serve the citizens, then it would be to activate a site-specific plan where you're working with the community to find out what their needs are, and then to consider if this site is viable or if there are other sites in the immediate vicinity that that would meet the citizens' needs.
So we're moving before we ask what their needs are. That's the part that.
I'm not, the
No, no.
fund, it's just a savings account. It's a savings account for Gil
Correct.
Street Park.
We
That's all
already
you're
have the
doing.
funds- One second, please. We already have the funds there already. The funds are there. The money's there. So if we wanted to move forward, figure out what it is, I just want to understand how we're going to, like I said, I have to be able to go back to those citizens, because this was one of my initiatives. So I want to go back and say to those people that, hey, per this, I want to know for sure that this is going to happen. We know the border change of those funds can easily come back out of that project and to go elsewhere. So I want to make sure, no matter what comes, the outcome is that these people get a bathroom.
And that's in your plan, that's in the plan, so we'd just be holding the money till we decide if we're gonna wait for that or try this other
So about
site.
2030 is about what we're looking at then.
Not necessarily. I mean, it really depends on what the citizens tell you they want.
I'm excited that we've got
Sure.
another option, just in case the site that we're currently at.
When's the last time
comes
you've
back.
been to Gil Street Park?
I'm sorry?
When's the last time you've been to Gil Street Park?
I was speaking, I'm so sorry. Will you excuse me for a second? I'm really grateful that we have this other opportunity, and I look forward to engaging with the citizens, just so that, you know, from what it sounds like, it might be faster for us to, you know, just move a couple hundred yards and take advantage of that other parcel that we have, instead of waiting for the DEQ process to be completed.
Correct.
Okay.
What was that?
2 weeks.
Okay.
I was there 2 weeks ago.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And, you know, DEQ could come back tomorrow and say all is green and ready to go, because we don't really know if these standards may change, because it changed just a little bit for us to be in this situation. 2 months before DEQ came out and said that it was contaminated, 2 months before it was okay because the standards hadn't changed. So if the administration may even change the standards again. We don't know. That's just the unknown. But we do have an option, if that keeps being unknown, to move forward with another location of the park, which will include the bathrooms that has already been allocated. Any other questions, comments from the
Yes,
board?
sir. Sheila, I know you and I have talked about this Gil Street Park, and we've even visited a few local, well, maybe not so local parks that might have different aspects that we could look at. Could you, at some point, not tonight, provide the board with some examples or some opportunities of what this, like what it could possibly look like? I know when we went and looked at the, I don't know what to call it, so I want to say Baby Nice Park that we went and looked at in Raleigh, that it was very nice, and it even had a small building on it that had restrooms. So I don't know if that is something that this property could do, but I think it would be good if you could bring us back maybe like some examples, or even if you could just send us an email or something just to show us like the possibilities, because I feel Commissioner Miles' passion about ensuring that we get some kind of restrooms at the park, because that is what the residents have been asking for, and that's clear, we know that. I also would like to encourage, again, looking into a partnership with Mount Zion, so that we could if we could build some kind of partnership with them where we house it, we staff it. I don't know what that looks like, but then it would open up an opportunity for us to have inside bathrooms or have some type of programming that we could do in this particular community that I'm familiar with, that we are all very familiar with. So I just want to make sure that we look at like all of the options that we have. In the interim, there are porta potties. Are there porta potties there? There are porta potties there. If there's a possibility for us to get a nicer porta potty, like that looks more like a restroom, because there are luxury porta potties. There are different kind of porta potties that make it feel not like, a porta potty. So can we just look at all of those options so that we can make sure that the residents in that community get what they need and we can have a plan to move forward?
Absolutely. We've talked with Mount Zion. They've done some renovations, and so just from a staffing standpoint, we weren't able to immediately jump into a full-on programming opportunity there. However, as soon as we got to where we could, they started some renovations, and so we actually met with them recently again to try and kickstart some programming, and we can continue to further that conversation, and we can absolutely look at those options. I would love the opportunity to visit parks with y'all, to share concepts with you, to talk about options. You do have options, and I think that's a beautiful thing to keep in mind here, is that you do have options.
I think that Commissioner Harrison went to Myrtle Beach this past couple months ago to a conference that talked about, specific recreation-based things, and I was at a similar one last year in Rocky Mount. And so I think that, the exciting thing that when we talk about Gil Street is that there are some really cool things that we could be doing, and engaging the community and presenting them with some of those options. I'm excited about that.
Commissioner Harrison, in light of what you were requesting as far as Sheila coming back before us with possible options, is that in lieu of also saying to have that feedback coming back from her prior to moving the funds? Are you requesting that? Are you saying?
No.
Okay.
The funds are, again, I wasn't saying that.
That's what I just wanted clarification.
No. Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I have full understanding. What is the harm in waiting to reallocate those funds later after we start talking with the citizens, engaging the citizens, versus urgently trying to do it tonight? I just want to make sure I have full clarification of that.
So by creating the capital fund, you are telling the citizens you're committed to the development of Gil Street Park.
Without a timeline.
I can't give you a timeline because I don't know the extent of the contamination in DEQ's report, but that's going to take time. And I don't know what their recommendation for addressing the contamination is going to be. Depending on what their findings are, it could be very timely, or they could come back and it's not going to be very timely. I do not know, and I can't tell you what the costs are going to be. What I can say is that we can be working with the community now to understand what their priorities are out of a park in that area and start preparing a plan on what it would take to get that to them as soon as possible. And if your goal is speed, then what is within our control is a property that's not contaminated.
Yeah, my goal is to make sure that when we have engagement with the citizens, if we're telling them that we just moved this amount of money, almost $786,000, that we do have a fundamental plan of understanding. I can present to them exactly what it is that we're looking at, and so that even when we are engaging with them, they have an understanding of what that engagement is. That way they will be more enticed to come to those meetings and participate, because they're going to come to us and ask us, well, what is that? That's a large amount of money, so what does that plan look like? What is the time frame? So that's why I'm leery about moving funds without really even having a timeline or fund. And even if I said, well, that could be 2 weeks to 2 years, we don't know what that looks like. Yeah. That still is a large amount of money to move forward without having an idea.
I want to be clear, I've not asked you to move money to do something different. It's all to do the same things, and it's just a savings account for Gil Street. So I'm not asking for you to take it away. If your preference is to not create the savings account for Gil Street Park and you just want to, let the funds go back to general fund, and I come back to you in August and you allocate them then, I mean, it's y'all's prerogative.
No, I
This is just a
understand that.
planning process.
It's not so much of myself or the board that I'm concerned about, is the questions of what the citizens are going to be asking. They don't have a full understanding like we do.
So maybe I can, if you don't mind for a moment. So if we do not put this into a capital project fund, this is what could happen. An election could happen, and the next, whatever the board looks like then, could decide that they don't want to move forward on the Gil Street project. We have not protected those funds in a capital project fund, and so they could just take those funds right away and no bathrooms would be built. So this is saying that we are dedicating those funds specifically for Gil Street Park, and those funds are going to be used for Gil Street Park and not taken and used for some other project should the makeup of the board be changed. Does that help?
Thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussion? We have a motion.
To approve ordinance 2025-30.
Second?
And a second. Discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Davis? Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Harrison?
Favor.
Commissioner Miles?
Not in favor.
Commissioner Baxter? Motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-31.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Baxter?
In favor?
Commissioner Miles?
Not in favor.
Commissioner Harrison?
Favor.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Davis?
Not in favor.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thanks, Sheila.
UDO text amendment update. Staff?
Hello, good evening. I know that you guys have seen this item a number of times, so I have some slides that you've seen before, but I did just want to kind of give a refresher because I know it's been probably about a month since you last saw it, and then I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have, and I'll either be able to answer them or hopefully get you that answer at a future meeting. So UDO text amendment. So review standards, this process that we're going through is for a UDO text amendment, which means that you would be amending the Unified Development Ordinance, and so the following standards apply. Whether this change enhances the public's health, safety, and welfare, whether it is consistent with the town's adopted policy guidance, whether it is not in conflict with any provision of this ordinance or the town code of ordinances, whether it is required by changed conditions, whether it addresses a demonstrated community need, whether it addresses an unforeseen matter not present with the when the ordinance was adopted, whether it is consistent with the purpose and intent of the zoning district in this the zoning districts in this ordinance, or would improve compatibility along uses and ensure efficient development within the town, would result in a logical and orderly development pattern, address other factors determined to be relevant by the Board of Commissioners, and would not result in significant adverse impacts on the natural environment, including water, air, noise, stormwater management, wildlife, vegetation, and the natural functioning of the environment. So Zebulon by the numbers. This slide is really here to just provide some context of what we're working with as far as vacant land in the future growth area of Zebulon. So the areas that you can see in green, those are agricultural lands, and the blue is vacant lands. And both of those land use types classified by Wake County are primed for commercial or residential development in the future. It doesn't mean that they will be developed. It just means that these lands are large enough and they have no current determined use that has a permanent structure on it, or if it does have a permanent structure, it's small compared to the overall site. So when we're talking about the RMU district, we want to consider the range of densities that we allow in the town of Zebulon. And so with any town, there's kind of a range from rural, suburban, to more urban. And this ranges in density as well as character when you're looking at community character and what's being built. And so in some cases, it is appropriate to have a more dense use, and in some cases, it's more appropriate to have a less dense use. And so this scale kind of shows that within every community, we kind of want to see that range in that scale. And so what's being proposed to you tonight and what you've seen before is basically providing an extra step on that scale that may provide a more dense option in a by right process. So tools for choice. As you've heard before, here are some items that town staff may be considering in the future to kind of look at to help continue to widen that choice, including what you're seeing tonight, which is the regional mixed use, the downtown food trucks, R1 district, signage sections, and plan development language. And so all these tools are used to kind of help to continue to move the town forward as the changing needs of the town grow with the town. So just to remind you, RMU districts can look very different, or what this district can create can look very different. So it can look something kind of like this. It can be surrounded by some sort of economic driver like a sports complex, or it can be even more suburban in nature, but still providing that mix of commercial with residential, or at least providing that option nearby. So right now we have a couple existing non-residential districts that help to promote certain efforts that the residential mixed-use development district would continue to promote, but they kind of do them in their own little cells. And so when we're looking at different districts, districts really help to determine what's appropriate for location and what may be appropriate uses, densities, and character. And so with the RMU district, it's being proposed to you as a new process that would actually encourage conversation with the board and would get your feedback with any of this, with any of the rezonings, and so you would be able to be in conversation and determine whether it's appropriate or whether one of these other zoning districts may be appropriate. Range of benefits to allowing an RMU district as a by right district choice. It helps to promote a development type that is typically high value per acre because you're adding density, thus highly fiscally productive over time and more sustained balance of property tax and potential relief to residents. Investors, it creates a clear, simple, standard, and by right process, which helps give more predictability to investors coming in and looking to develop. The family on a Saturday afternoon, so you and your families or any citizen in Zebulon's families, this option helps to provide more interesting development with a place to go and helping to enhance quality life. Municipality, it helps enable one or the most fiscally productive developments by right. The town is more competitive and it brings in high impact projects to the market sooner. So regional mixed use, so a couple of changes you'll see in the UDO are kind of broken down into these different sections. So the dimensional standards table laid out what dimensional standards will be used, and we heavily use the office institutional zoning district, which is also a mixed use district, to kind of build those standards. I want to point out that a master plan will be required, and so that process you'll be able to engage and see what may be proposed in a certain area and have a little bit of input on the overall character that's being established. Straightforward design standards, so laying out very clearly that this is what you will have to follow throughout the process, and that's something that we hear from developers all the time is very important. Additionally, we updated the table of uses to reflect the appropriate uses for this specific district, while also still recognizing that there may be a range of uses that this district should cover, and allowing all those uses to have an opportunity to be developed in this district. So outcomes, again, as we've said over and over again, this creates a better, straightforward by right development process while also still engaging with the board. It creates a predictive investment environment, which helps clear expectations for both investors and you as the board, the regulators. It helps to streamline the process by promoting economic competitiveness. And it also helps to align with the public's objectives by orienting development to the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. So staff recommends approval of Ordinance 2025-25 because in our professional opinion, the community can expect the previously shown outcomes should this text amendment be approved. And then the planning board voted to recommend approval of text amendment 2025-01 on January 13th, 2025. So I'm here to answer any questions. And again, if I can't answer them tonight, I'm happy to find a time to meet separately or to have those discussions next time we're in a work session. So feel free to ask any questions that you have. And as well, there is a motion, sample motion. So if a motion is ready to be made, I'm happy to go to that slide as well.
I have a couple of things, Kate. First, and again, you'll have to excuse my froggy voice. What's the beginning utility allocation points going to look like for the regional mixed use? I think I missed it.
Yeah. So I don't have that in front of me, but I do know that our utility allocation policy has 3 use types that are all mixed use, and I believe they're all the same points
So like
classification.
40, I think, is
Yes.
starting?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe it's 40. So that would be in the case if it truly meets that standard.
Okay.
Let's say someone comes in with a purely townhome development, but they still want to go under the residential mixed use. We would classify that as the residential development, which is that 10 points. So there's kind of a range. Because with
How
our
would you make that determination, though?
Yeah, with our utility allocation policy, we utilize it based off of use rather than off of the zoning district. And so if a certain use is being established and is going through this process, then that would be the applicable use that we would use. And we have like certain definitions that help to determine what falls under that use.
I just have one more follow-up then. So if they wanted regional mixed use, but the percentage of the residential was like skewed highly in favor of the residential, then it might change the utility allocation policy?
It's possible.
From 40 to
It's
whatever?
possible. So I think I'll provide you a copy of it, but the utility allocation policy breaks down mixed use as really mixed use. So it has all 3 uses is what it requires. And so it requires a mixture of retail, commercial, and retail, office, and residential. And so if it truly falls into that category, we would use that for the points. If it falls somewhere else, so let's say that it's mostly mostly commercial, we have a separate option for box store commercial or other commercial use types. So we can determine based off of that. And then additionally, there is a additional clause in the utility allocation policy that allows the board to assign points to any use that's not covered. So if there's a discrepancy on whether something falls into a use, then it would be kicked to the board to discuss how those points should be allocated.
Cool. I just have 2 things to discuss with the board, but I might have some more questions. The first thing that I'd like to discuss with you guys is your thoughts on lowering the percentage that the planning department, the percentage that the planning department can change as far as the residential units before having to come back to us. It sits as written at 15%, and I'd like to see it a little bit lower, like maybe somewhere around 5 or 10%. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Just meaning that, like if there's a 1,000 unit development, without it coming back before us, it could be raised or lowered by 150 units. I'd like that to come back before us as a deviation from the master plan, that is. Like at a little bit lower percentage. What do you guys think? Did I just explain that really wrong? Okay.
I'm
all right.
sorry.
No, that's okay. No, it's
I was
fair.
like
It's
writing
totally
down,
fair.
trying to, okay.
All right, so
one more time.
So with the master plan that the regional mixed use is, and if I start like saying something that's way wrong, you got to step in and tell me, okay?
No,
All
so
right.
you're good.
Right. She's like very wrong. She's writing, hopefully not. So with the regional mixed use master plan, it's my understanding that they will have the proposed number of units. And then as they move through the process, there's always going to be like, well, that's not going to exactly work, so we're going to like change it by X number of units here, increase or decrease. And as it sits now,
Yes.
they can change, it can be changed by up to 15% before it has to come to the Board of Commissioners to allow us to talk through that master plan again. I'd like to see it a little bit lower threshold before it comes back before us for discussion.
You're looking like 10%, 5%, what is your?
I was thinking 10.
10 is
when
fine.
I looked at it earlier, I did think 15 was, I wanted it lower, but I wasn't thinking 5. I was thinking more like 10, but that was just like off the cuff looking at
What is
it.
the rationale
so.
for 15K that you guys had in the original? What is that?
So the exact rationale for 15, I think it was just a number that was chosen. I think we definitely could amend it. Additionally, I wanted to point out there, sometimes in our ordinance, we do have kind of 2 thresholds. So it might say it might be 15% or 150, right? So that could be an option too, is to say, we want to see it come back before us if it's that 15% threshold, or if it hits 100 units, right? So that's another option. I just want to throw out there as language that we've utilized in the past in the UDO to kind of capture that where, 15% might make sense for 20 units, but might not make sense for 1,000, right?
I'm okay with lowering that percentage.
To 10, is that okay?
10%, I'm fine with
Okay, so
10%.
could we move that to 10, please?
Yeah, you'll just have to make that in your motion if you're making a motion tonight,
yeah.
but if not, then I can change it for the next one.
Okay. And then the other thing that I wanted to discuss was the allowed uses. As it's written right now, pawn shop, laundry facilities, and blood tissue collection are all special use permits. And where I can see like maybe having like a laundromat makes sense. I think that blood and tissue collection sites might not fit with what we're trying to do with the overall regional mixed use, thoughts that we're having. Because if we do something that's like a medical facility, then they can still do tissue collection, but it's known as a medical facility or blood collection or whatever. But this is just like a specific area for blood and tissue collection, because in my thought is that those types of sites might get used less frequently and so might not be the right fit for a regional mixed use setting.
When I initially looked at it and I saw the blood and tissue collection, I was thinking, do we really, I had questions about that, but then I was like, would it make it so that medical facilities, would it make it not an option for medical facilities? Because if it does make it where it's not an option for medical facilities, then I wouldn't want to, because with having, Wake Med, Wendell so close by, our urgent care, and then a few other of the small clinics around in our community, I wasn't sure if that was the best option to remove that.
What we were told last time when we talked about it was that if there was any other use inside that facility, it would be known as a medical facility. And so the tissue and the blood sampling could happen.
Okay.
That's correct, isn't it?
When we're looking at use, we really focus on the primary use, and obviously there can be secondary uses. but sometimes those secondary uses can fall under it as a primary use. So it could be something that even could be considered to be added to the accessory use table as something that says, we're not going to have it allowed as a standalone, but it could be part of as an accessory to the primary. Or I can check into the text just to make sure that it's covered under hospital, because sometimes there'll be a caveat that is very specific that may say this is with the exception of XYZ, right? So I'll check just to make sure. But to my knowledge, we would still be able to put that as an auxiliary use to a hospital or medical office.
Okay. All right.
And then I wanted to get your thoughts on potentially removing pawn shops as a special use permit and just taking it off the table entirely.
I'm actually okay with that.
I'm okay with that too.
Say what would be, why would you want to take that off?
Well,
Just-
I mean, if we're looking at economic development, I've just never seen pawn shops in a large, successful economic development project. But if that's something that you guys want to keep, that's fine. I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah,
For somebody
I'm
that's been to
sorry.
a pawn shop, I know the economic development, so yeah, I'd like to keep it there. For somebody that's been to a pawn shop a time or two, I would like to keep it there.
Keep it-
Yes, keep it.
Like it?
Yeah, I like it.
Pawn shop, maybe they
It's
want to move.
because you're still gonna come before with a special permit anyway, in order to get approved, so if the board don't like it, it's not gonna go forward anyway, so that's the key thing, it's not gonna hurt to be there, it's an option, it won't hurt it.
I would prefer to keep the pawn shop one.
Okay, what do we want to do about the blood and tissue collection?
I like the fact when you were saying if it can be used as a medical facility, not so-called. I can go with that.
As long as the medical, it doesn't, as long as taking that out doesn't remove medical facilities, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with
It's
removing
a
it.
change of language, is that correct?
Sorry, say that again?
Language, can we change the use of that language?
We may be able to. I just have to look to see what the specifics are under. So we have the use specific standards, and so I just want to make sure that it's not disqualified through that process.
I don't want to disqualify,
Right.
because in the principal use table, there are, again, pardon me, medical facilities are an allowed use, hospitals are a permitted use. Or we could just let it go as is, and since it's a special use,
So it has to come before us anyway, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just, coming before us as a special use, it's pretty much going to go through anyway unless there's a major reason not to, or we just remove it from the table right now.
Before us, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine if if it has to come before us anyway.
We'll make that decision.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all I had.
Comments, concern?
Only changes we have is that 15 down to 10.
10, yeah,
Yeah.
10, 7.5, yes.
So when we make that, if you want to make that motion, we got to add that into that motion, the 10%
I can do that.
from, what was the
From
original?
15 to 10.
From 15 to
Yeah.
10?
And how do you want that worded exactly?
Say as amended.
Just saying as amended? Okay.
And
that's
we can
what I
make
say.
the change.
All right, so I make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-25, finding that the RMU district is consistent with the Grove Zebulon Comprehensive Land Use Plan and meets the standards of UDO 2.2.21.g as described in the prepared statement per UDO 2.21.f as amended.
I'll second.
And a second, discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Davis. Favor. Commissioner Baxter.
Favor.
Commissioner Clark.
Favor.
Commissioner Miles. Favor. Commissioner Harrison.
Either.
Motion passes.
I don't know why I'm clapping, but I was so excited. I was very excited about that. Yes.
Is new business,
I'm very excited.
police care unit, update.
Only one PowerPoint slide for me, so. A good evening, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. So last year, you approved the acceptance of a micro grant through New Blue that Carrie Burke was a part of, which provided the initial funding to embed 2 master's level social worker interns into the Zebulon Police Department. One from North Carolina Central University, Miss Kayla Hawkins, who was unavailable to come tonight due to class that she had to attend, and then Miss Sarah Jump, who is with North Carolina State University. That acceptance marked the launch of our CARE unit, which is the Community Advocacy and Resource Enhancement Unit. So I'll give you a brief recap of what that unit does. When our officers respond to calls for service and there is any sign of trauma from a juvenile, they could be a victim, a witness, an offender, doesn't matter to us. Our officers then make a referral to the CARE unit, who then triages that unit or that referral by attempting to make contact with that family and give some early intervention therapy, referral services to local entities that can help them in many ways. Since its inception, we have received over 140 referrals, and it's only been going since September of last year, impacting 213 children and their families. So there's a significant amount of families that have been impacted by this. These interactions have brought vital resources and support to a population that was previously largely unserved by the police department. And if you'll turn your attention to the infographic, I'll give you some numbers here. And this is just our Q1 numbers for 2025. The big one there is 54 children. So we've offered services to 54 children in total just since January. And why that 54 is important is that's not the amount of children that the police department has encountered in that time. We've encountered numerous children, a lot for positive engagement. That's 54 children that have been subjected to trauma of some sort inside your city limits. So you'll see down below that we anywhere from 9 to over 15 referrals per month. Generally, I look back at all of it, and for the whole time, it's been around 15 referrals per month. So that may be the same family in some cases where we're having multiple calls to the same family's house. And the kind of services we're offering is varied as well. So you'll see that the pie graph to the right there, mental health issues are primarily the largest thing that we're having to respond to for our juveniles, at 38.5%. And then next would be family support. And what family support is, we just generalize these categories so we don't go into the weeds on specifics. But family support could be something like our officers responded to a domestic violence situation. A child witnessed that. There was no involvement where the child was actually injured or anything, but they still had trauma from that experience. It could also be something like addressing housing needs, clothing needs, food needs, a myriad of different things in that. And then lastly is youth and peer support at 28.2%. That is minor behavioral issues, runaways, things of that nature. So I threw a lot of numbers at you there. A big one there is 82%. So 82% of our total cases assigned during Q1 are still open. That doesn't mean that we have the 82% of the people that we have reached out to have engaged with us. About 1 in 10 families is accepted services, which is good. I mean, it's better than 0 out of 10, right? But some of that 80% is going to be active cases where they're still pursuing these families, because we don't just give up with one phone call. They make numerous attempts. They make telephone calls. They make home visits if they're not getting an answer to that telephone. So they're really trying their best to get active engagement with these families. So for all those numbers, the real question is what is it doing for the town? So we were trying to figure out how to look at this out of 140 referrals to get some statistical data for you. And what we narrowed this number down to is families that had had multiple referrals. So officers responded more than once to this residence. So they're looking at this population that is at higher risk, right? There's been more than 2 referrals of the same family. And we wanted to see how the care unit was affected that. So I'm gonna leave you on a cliffhanger for just a second, so remember that. Well, what's our overall goal, right? Our overall goal is we wanna reduce crime, and that may be something that takes 10 years to do. You'll see shortly, I don't believe that to be the case, but and we have to be innovative about it. Police are very good at solving crimes. If you look at our solvability rate, we're great at it. But where we may need to do something different is in preventing crime, right? Especially with our youth. So we know that the more that youth are subjected to trauma, early childhood trauma, certainly affects them being engaged in future criminality and being a victim in the future. So we need to find a way to tap that rudder to where that's not the case. So I think things like the care unit are, although we're specifying that we're only dealing with juveniles with the care unit right now, I think this is the way to go. And why I think that is because what we found is significant. So we had 16 cases, and again, we've only got 6 months here to work with. That number will be a lot bigger one day, hopefully, where we can get you some better data. But 16 cases for multiple referrals. Out of those 16, the ones that accepted care services and engaged in care service. So not just said, we want your help, but the ones that said, we want your help, what can we do? And then actively pursued the services that our care unit was providing. 83% of those residents did not have another call at their house once they accepted services.
83?
83%, yeah. Conversely, 100% of the houses that did not accept care services had repeat calls. That's significant.
Is there something you feel is the reason for not recepting that? I mean, just their personal preference, or just you could assess yourself as a subject matter expert in this? You can assess?
What was
Why
that?
they wouldn't take the care? Is there something different?
Yeah,
different reason,
yeah.
rationale?
Yeah, a lot of it's probably, previous history. I mean, they're working for they're ingrained in the police department. We're building trust. Certainly is an elephant in the room for them. We've experienced that where they're like, no, we don't want help. You're with the police department. And then they find out that it's not so bad. We've had people take services, and it's a tool to build trust there. And then again, a lot of times when CPS is associated with law enforcement, right? So people think, well, they're here to only do stuff bad to me, and that's not what we're there for. We're there to give them help and prevent them from having future engagements with law enforcement, really, and CPS and all those other agencies. We don't want them involved in the juvenile justice system, because the likelihood that they recidivize from being in the juvenile justice system increases the more that they're involved in it. So, yeah, I think it's something we're definitely working on increasing our capacity through that, but it's just going to take longer and more engagement through our care unit to build that trust. So, so big numbers. 83% of them had no calls, more calls for juvenile-related issues, which is good. That's 16 households, 43 calls for service, and 52 total law enforcement juvenile contacts in that group that we were looking at there. And it shows that when families engage with the care unit, it works, and it helps break that cycle of repeat calls and trauma for that child. We did not realize how successful it was going to be. We didn't know we were going to have so many referrals and so much work for our social workers. So they're here 3 days. They're here 3 days a week, Tuesday through Thursday, and then Kayla was here Tuesday through Thursday, and Sarah was here Wednesday through Friday. And we are grateful that you accepted our ability to seek out grant funding for a full-time position, which I expect we would ask for a full-time position in the future to help cover some of the issues that we've encountered, mainly gaps in service due to we're fully staffing this with interns, and sadly, Ms. Jump, this is her last day here. 'Cause
Unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree. This is her last day with us, so very fitting that she's here. But I would like to open the floor to her so she can tell you about more of her personal experience, and you just don't have to hear the numbers from me. So, Sarah Jump.
Hello, and what an honor it is to have the opportunity to be here tonight and speak about the importance of the care unit in Zebulon and the positive impact that I've been able to witness while piloting this important program. We've been able to connect with youth and families who, for one reason or another, may have fallen through the cracks with services, whether that be with the juvenile justice, child protective services, or even school services. And they've shared with us that they've often felt neglected or dismissed. And when we intervene, you know, families they've just shared with us, they've felt brushed off in the past, like no one has heard their concerns. And when the care unit steps in, they feel that somebody truly cares about them and wants to help them. And many parents, they've just expressed deep gratitude for just simply having someone to sit down and listen to them and see what they would like to see for their child. And these interactions, like these moments of genuine connection, are transforming how youth and families in our community experience support. And for example, I just want to share like a personal story of a success that I've had with a client. They are a parent of a child with they're on the autism spectrum, their child is, and they've had difficulties with their insurance, navigating finding a dentist for their child, because it is very hard to find someone who will provide special needs dentistry for children with autism in this area. But I was able to advocate on their behalf and get them connected. And the mom, she was just so overjoyed that she broke down in tears, and she was saying, like, this woman right here, she's been a godsend to my family. And because of her, my child was able to get his teeth fixed, and he's also receiving mental health services. And then Miss Hawkins, the other social worker, she was unable to be here tonight due to class, but with her permission, I will also share another success story. In October of 2024, she received a referral for a teenage male who had assaulted a family member, and his mother was just really overwhelmed, not knowing where to turn. She felt like she had no options, and she was just in dire need of some mental health support for him. And she was afraid that his mental health needs were going to be overlooked. And so Ms. Hawkins was able to complete an intake assessment with her, and she was able to connect them to the appropriate service. And she spoke with his mother last Thursday, and she has reported that he is actively engaging and participating with services. He is now passing his classes at school, and his behavior has improved significantly. And she thanked the care unit for our continued support, and she was comfortable with us closing out the case. And a challenge that I do see for this program is the gaps in service delivery. During the school breaks that we have, things like around holidays and things like that, there's a gap in service delivery. And what we want to do is mitigate that. And if we were able to have a full-time position, there would be someone there all the time to take care of these cases and step in and provide that support. And we want to do everything we can to be able to mitigate that. And in closing, to continue building on this success, we would ask that we would have your support. And this would allow us to make a real difference in the lives of youth and families in the community who need it most. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sarah, we really appreciate you piloting this program. You and Kayla. I hate she couldn't be here, but you really have made a difference, and you'll be missed because those connections that you've made already. When you go back to, she's from the mountains. She's going all the way to Murphy. So if you can't go any further in the state, if you didn't know that, so you'll always have a spot here in Zebulon, and the community they will miss you. So,
Yeah, for sure.
we appreciate
Thank you so much.
Much.
Questions for you guys?
I do. I would like to hear from Officer Burke as well. Give her an opportunity to speak. I know this is her thing.
Speak.
I would like to extend that offer.
I brought her just because I figured someone may want to hear.
Yeah, I want to hear from her because this is her thing. How are we doing? Doing well. I'd just like to hear your thoughts on the program. I know I saw when the first day you picked them up at the elementary school, and you were excited. Now I still see the smile as you sit in the audience. I would just like to hear your thoughts on the program.
Oh yeah, I am beaming with excitement and such gratitude for how this program has developed. When, the time you're talking about, it was brand new. Kayla had an HR meeting that day. We're like, is this gonna work? And just fast forwarding to this time period and knowing and seeing the impact that they're making, hearing the constant stories and seeing the emotional reaction on these families' faces when they're just like, finally someone is here to listen to me and help me. And that is all that I have asked for personally when developing this program. That's all I wanted to see, and to see that come into fruition because of her and Kayla, and completely spearheading this initiative when it could have flopped if we put the wrong people in it. But they were awesome at it, and they were so good at it. I'm so proud of both of them. Overall, I'm just very proud of the program and the success that it has had even in 6 months. Those numbers that Captain Collette shared, I am blown away about it. And all it is doing is just lighting that fire and igniting it even more. I cannot wait to see the future of this program.
All right. Thank you for sharing
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Kudos, team.
Yes, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, one more thing, Captain Collette. Could you get us all of the numbers for the entire time that the project has been up and running, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Awesome.
Infographic form, just like that?
Well, you seem to be very good at that, so sure.
I was about to say, but is he though?
However it is to get us the numbers. Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda, we have closed sessions for personnel discussion. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Going to closed session.
Second.
We have a second and recess.
Do you want us to?
Good vote.
All in favor of closed session?
Favor.
Commissioner? All in favor?
Oh, I raised.
Oh, okay.
Y'all just not keeping up here.
Motion passes
Quick, she's quick.
unanimously. 5-minute recess.
Thank you.